There's a very interesting history over the past 25 years or so after Taiwan's democratization of third parties coming and going.
Central problem, or I think people care about the sovereignty and identity. Sovereignty and identities always outweigh the traditional Western left-right divisions.
But the status quo isn't great either because the formal name is Republic of China, but it only has diplomatic relations with 12 countries, including the Holy See. And most countries don't call Taiwan or the Republic of China a country. So
they thought this kind of ideology is a panacea for all the society issues, like 抗中保台, right? That this is something that they can do. So they actually start out talking about the issues like labor rights, environment protection, same-sex marriage, those things. But everything, sooner or later will come back to China's issues. So it is almost inevitable that the social media or the voters force them to choose one side or another.
A lot of commentary, both domestically and overseas, says that the TPP is basically kind of like the little brother to the KMT. Hi, I'm Ross Feingold, an American lawyer and political analyst here in Taipei, Taiwan, and I'm joined today by Ann Lai, who's an external counsel to the Taiwan People's Party. Hi, Ann.
Hi, I'm Ann.
Today we're going to talk about third parties in Taiwan. There's a very interesting history over the past 25 years or so after Taiwan's democratization of third parties coming and going. So we're going to talk about why Ann thinks the Taiwan People's Party is here to stay and won't be going. But first, Ann, maybe you could explain to our audience who often think about political parties being either on the left or the right of the political spectrum. For example, in the US, we have the Republicans more conservative on the right. We have the Democrats more progressive on the left. In the UK, there's the conservatives and Labour, left, right. So where do the political parties in Taiwan stand on this spectrum?
What is considered as left and right in the West, that doesn't map neatly onto Taiwanese politics. In the Western politics, we think more along the lines with like taxes, welfare distribution, welfare, and some issues like abortion and gay marriage. I just name a few. However, it's very different in Taiwan. In Taiwan, the central political problem isn't about how large the government should be.
So just to be clear, all the parties in Taiwan basically support a large government, right?
That's a good question, because I don't think people really have a lot of concern on taxes. Mm-hmm. So probably that's not an issue in Taiwan. So so it's not about how large it should be or how much welfare it should provide. The central problem, or I think people care about the sovereignty and identity. Sovereignty and identities always outweigh the traditional Western left-right divisions. So it is about like competing visions of national identity and how to manage the relationship with China. So in Taiwan, one side tends to emphasize a distinct Taiwanese identity and they want to have the greater separation from China. You can call it the left if you want. And then on the other side tends to focus on the Republic of China and then maintain the historical, cultural, economic ties with China. I think by necessity, that is more of the conservative stance.
But that's not related to social conservatism, correct? You gave some examples like abortion or gay rights, where those are issues we put political parties in the West on the left, right?
Right.
But in Taiwan, when you say conservative, you're not talking about social issues, correct?
No. Conservative means that regardless of relationship with China, they want to maintain the ties with or the connection with China.
So given that we know that there's a divide, which you just explained among the political parties, it's how to manage or define the relationship with China, and that's kind of where some parties are more conservative than the other. The parties that want separation or a separate identity, i.e. the Democratic Progressive Party, why don't they just hold a referendum on the issue?
When a survey simply asks, are you pro-unification or pro-independence, it's actually not a very good question. A much better question to gauge the public opinions by adding some conditions or the context. For example, should Taiwan pursue formal independence if there's absolutely no chance of the war with mainland China? I think the support for the independence will go up significantly. However, the same logic also apply to unification. For example, are you pro-unification if China were to democratize? I know that sounds a little bit stretched today, but if China is fully democratic, I think the polling numbers will go up significantly as well. So it's all about the conditions and the context. So now it comes to the question, how do you write the referendum questions that everybody accepts? There's no wording that satisfies everyone.
But the status quo isn't great either, because the formal name is Republic of China, but it only has diplomatic relations with 12 countries, including the Holy See. And most countries don't call Taiwan or the Republic of China a country. So what do you say to that?
I think the majority people still want to maintain the status quo. And in that sense, in practice, Taiwan already functions as the self-governing political identity under Republic of China. So in that sense, the status quo is understood as a meaning already independent. So that's why many of us don't see any urgent need to declare a new one or have the new constitution. So again, why rock the boat? We have so many the challenges or some societal issues that need to be solved, need to be addressed. Why spend enormous political capital on the referendum that would be so controversial even before the voting begins?
You said, you asked the question, why rock the boat? But is there an answer to that question? Why do some politicians rock that boat?
I think they want to hype up a little bit of this issue. So they thought this kind of ideology is a panacea for all the societal issues, like 抗中保台, right? That this is something that they can use. So the public can ignore some other challenges that we face.
But if you're explaining that the Kuomintang, the Chinese Nationalist Party, they're definitely against holding this kind of referendum. They prefer the Republic of China framework. That's what makes them more conservative. And the Democratic Progressive Party doesn't want to actually go that far. They don't even, to use your word, want to rock the boat. Then why doesn't this debate ever go away? It seems that every election, we have a local election upcoming in November in Taiwan. There'll be national elections in January 2028. This issue just never goes away. Why is that?
I think people use the word independence to refer very different things. There's a important distinction between de jure independence and de facto independence. When we talked about independence, many of us refer to the de facto independence. Again, that means that we want to maintain the current system under the Republic of China, and that Taiwan is already operated as the independent state. So some scholars or some commentators call it the Huadu. However,
Hua meaning 中华民国 is part of the country's name.
Right.
And Du is Duli, independence.
Yes, right, exactly. What many outsiders understand, or what the states or mainly China's object to, is de jure independence. That means a formal independence. That basically means that we want to redefine the constitution, declare a new one, even change the flag and national symbol, and give the name as a Republic of Taiwan. And that definitely decouple Taiwan from both Republic of China and the PRC. So I think that's why it's so controversial. And some DPP supporters, they argue Beijing doesn't really distinguish what is Huadu or Taidu. Any position short of the unification is considered as the independence. That's why they argue if a KMT cannot obtain any safe space for Taiwan to engage or to operate the international community, then why would engagement itself can solve the problem?
So why have the engagement then, if the PRC's position is anything short of unification, is independence, whether it's the current de facto or going towards de jure? But if those if those positions are unacceptable to the PRC, then why have engagement?
I think right now the current situations or the circumstance, there's a discrepancy between the current situation and our constitution. That's why people have the room to discuss about it. What's the kind of the identity that we want to express or deliver, or what kind of message that we want to deliver into the international community.
Let's return back to the domestic politics and the rise and fall of the third party. Several examples over the past 25 years. We could talk more about those examples shortly, but there's a clear pattern. All right, so we know the DPP is here to stay. The KMT, despite many predictions of its death, is still here as well. In fact, right now they're the largest party in the legislative yuan. But the other third parties have arose, struggle to define their identity, and then pretty rapidly within 5, 6, 7 years, they start to disappear. Why have we seen this cycle repeatedly over the past 25 years with third parties here in Taiwan?
Well, I think there are several reasons for that. One is deeper cultural and ideological tensions. Some people describe this oceanic thinking versus continental thinking. A lot of some of the Taiwan's news political forces is actually emerged from the youth movements, which is shaped by the oceanic thinking. They are open, they are diverse, they are intertotalitarian, and then centered on Taiwan itself. And they emerge to push back against the continental thinking, which is more focused on the older political culture, emphasized on the hierarchy, and want to have the historical narrative with China. So they actually started out talking about the issues like labor rights, environment protection, same-sex marriage, those things. But everything, sooner or later, will come back to China's issues. So it is almost inevitable that the social media or the voters force them to choose one side or another. And unfortunately, most of them, their political DNA were still fundamentally either KMT or DPP. So their distinction will be absorbed.
What about the structure of the legislative yuan, the Taiwan's parliament? Because in some countries, the voting system actually is designed to facilitate third parties winning seats in the national parliament. What about in Taiwan?
So in Taiwan, Taiwan's legislature is adopted, it is elected based on a mixed vote system. One vote is for the single member district, another vote is for partyless legislature. And this kind of a system gives a lot of advantage for the larger parties, but make it very difficult for the small parties to survive. And regarding the single member district, there's a big challenge for them is that the young political party, they may have a strong social media presence or charismatic leaders, but the thing is that if they don't have the local organizations, the experienced campaign workers, or long-established network on the ground, it's very difficult for them to turn the popularity into the seats.
So in a single member district, you need to have the network to mobilize the voters. Sometimes, maybe it's not true. I heard in the past there was vote buying. Does that still happen in Taiwan?
Sorry again?
Vote buying.
Vote buying. Oh, maybe somewhere.
But not your party.
No.
So let's talk about some of the examples of third parties in Taiwan in recent years, other than the Taiwan People's Party. One that got a lot of international attention over the past 10 years was called the New Power Party, or NPP. Tell us about them.
Yeah, so about NPP, they wasn't really offering distinctions when it comes to the Taiwan's identity with the DPP. So that's why some of the notable legislators from NPP, they left and then joined DPP afterwards.
And then there was another party called the Taiwan Solidarity Union that won some legislative seats, about 10 or 15. 20 years ago? What became of them?
So about 10 and 15 years ago, TSU, they also, this is pretty similar, the things happened to them as well. That regarding the Taiwan identity, they had a little distinction with DPP, and they were reabsorbed by DPP. And but interestingly, under its revised name, they right now selling themselves as American-style conservative party.
Is there a market for that in Taiwan politics?
I don't even know nowadays that young people know them.
Another political party that also got a lot of international attention because he was involved in Taiwan politics for so many years. It was called the People's First Party, led by James Song Chu-yu. What happened to them?
So he's definitely a very charismatic leader, but it's the party, the third party, they don't really have the local organization throughout Taiwan, and then you cannot show any distinction between yourself, and another party, like the major party, either KMT or DPP. Then sooner or later they will be absorbed because their DNA. The political DNA were still fundamentally either side.
When I first came to Taiwan 30 years ago, there was another political party called the New Party, not the same as the New Power Party, a different party called the New Party that also won a lot of legislative seats in the 1990s. What happened to that?
Firstly, they don't have the charismatic leader out of Taipei, and they don't have the local organization throughout Taiwan as well. So that's why they faded out.
So does every political discussion in Taiwan, no matter what the issue, eventually still get pulled back to the China question?
To some extent, yes, but Taiwan is not divided by the conservative and progressive ideology. So the two major parties cannot capture all the voters' preference or their concerns.
On issues other than China.
Exactly, other than unification or independence. So it seems things like societal issues like energy security, social housing, birth rates, or some economic structure. Those all matter a lot. So I think that gives a room for the third party to emerge. But again, the question is whether they can survive over time.
So let's bring that conversation over to the Taiwan People's Party then. You've explained that there have been third parties, they've rose and fell. Most issues still get pulled back to China relationship, independence versus unification, but there still is a need or a desire by voters for parties that spend time on other issues. So how does the Taiwan People's Party plan to survive?
Firstly, we are able to cross the ideology dichotomy between unification and independence. And then, because we focus on the center left, the progressive, and the issue-based reforms. And that message resonates with a lot of voters, especially young voters. So as the first time in 2024, we got 22 presidential votes, which is about 3.7 million. And then we also got 22% the partyless legislature vote. So I think as a first timer, that's good. That was good. And secondly, we vote what is right instead of the bipartisan ideology. We do not rubber stamp anyone's agenda. So for example, in 2024 Police Retirement Act, at that time, KMT proposed raising the pension rate up to 90%, which is financially unsustainable. And TPP held our ground. And then we successfully negotiated down to 80%, which is much more reasonable. And then a lot of other progressive bill, for example, like surrogacy bill, is led by our legislator Chen Zhaozi. And then also new Immigrants Basic Act, also proposed by our former legislator Mai Yuzhen. So you can see those kind of the act, the bill, we actually pull KMT alone instead of follow them or vote them.
A lot of commentary, both domestically and overseas, says that the TPP is basically kind of like the little brother to the KMT. You've just become part of an alliance with the KMT, and you don't act as an independent political party. How would you respond to that? And especially because people saw that your party did fight with the KMT against the recalls last year, which eventually all did fail, partly because I guess your help. But the recalls did fail, but your party was very outspoken in opposing those recalls and taking the side of the KMT.
So what's public see as a KMT and TPP alliance is just a half the story. After we secured a seat in the parliament and became the critical minority, I think our role was very clear from day one. We support any policies that benefits the countries or good for the public. So the door is wide open. We are willing to collaborate with both sides, no matter it's KMT or the TPP. So the question is about who drove us away or push us away to the other side step by step. The question isn't about that why we always collaborate with the KMT. The question is about who drove us away. And the answer is very clear, it's TPP. I can give you an example. The first step was about, like in 2024, there's a parliamentary reform controversies when TPP chose to fulfill the promises that DPP used to propose, such as those relating to the congressional hearing or the parliamentary contempt. We were immediately got the label as the, engaging the power grab or acting as a CCP op. I think that's the first step that they drove us away. We just simply want to have every mature democracy has.
不管是美国到德国到英国到法国，哪一个民主先进国家的国会没有听证调查权？你用道理说服我吗？我今天在公听会上面我也讲了很实际的例子。那他们不跟你讲正常的东西。然后在那边东迁西迁，东迁西迁，你有没有发现说这次民进党邀来的学者专家很少？
为什么呢？
因为12年前针对一样的事情，
是
立法院也办过公听会，
是
那时候民进党是在野党，
是
那时候邀来的学者专家，包括他们那时候自己的立委，现在总统府的秘书长林佳龙，今天刚刚宣布要当行政院副院长的郑丽君，大家去看看2012年12月11号立法院办的那场公听会，当初这些民进党的立委是怎么讲的？当初民进党邀来的学者专家是怎么讲的？12年以后，你说邀同一批学者专家到立法院来讲完全不一样的话，他们讲得出来？我不相信。
But there's a man who doesn't want to be constrained or doesn't want to be checked. That means personalizing the. So I think that's the first step. And the second step, of course, is the great recall. This is totally done without any legitimacy. And I think that's a cautionary tale for TPP. If they can rig the game like this, and what's happened to KMT today can also happen to TPP tomorrow, then all the opposition parties supposed to stand together and stop them to abuse the power. So I would say over the past 2 years, this kind of fight back or the way that we check is just based on our own way. The two opposition parties use our own way to check the personal life and to stop the ruling party keep abusing the power. So those issue-based coalition is more like a natural response to stop them, instead of there's a genuine coalition. But right now, the game is different. Regarding the upcoming municipal elections, I think KMT and TPP, they do have to learn how to deal with the dynamic and share the political pie for the public interest, and also, learn how to do the coalition government. If it works, then of course it's paved the way for 2028, maybe the presidential tickets.
I'm going to ask you a really difficult question.
Yeah.
Do you think of yourself as Chinese or Taiwanese?
I think I will answer the question with something that the former Prime Minister of Singapore, Lee Kuan Yew, once said. I'm not Chinese, the same as Kennedy was not an Irishman. Gradually, one day the world will come to know that Singaporean with the surname Li, Yang, Wang, Gao look Chinese and speak Chinese, but are different from Chinese. And then we think from Singaporean standpoint and look at the Singaporeans' interest instead of a China standpoint of their interest. So that's my answer. I certainly recognize my Chinese, my cultural heritage. But first and foremost, I look out for Taiwanese interest and then think from Taiwanese perspective.
Maybe that's why your party is called the Taiwan People's Party.
I think so. So prepare some question for you.
Okay.
So based on your experience, and then I also want to know what's your take on this, because we can look at the American experience. In the 1992 US election, Ross Perot won 19% of the popular vote, but there's a zero electoral vote due to the winner-takes-all system. And I think that third party also in Taiwan faced the similar situations. So do you think it is about the biggest problem for third parties is because lack of the true popular support or simply because of the structure designed to impede their growth?
It's clear in the United States or Taiwan that third parties or third-party candidates can win millions of votes. Like you said, Ross Perot is a good example. He did win millions of votes, and your party and the other third parties that we talked about have also won millions of votes here in Taiwan. As you said, the TPP presidential candidate in 2024 won over 3 million votes. The TPP party list for the Legislative Yuan won over 3 million votes. But there is some inherent challenges in the US to win a presidential election. It's the Electoral College, which makes it nearly impossible for a third-party candidate to win the presidential election. And here in Taiwan, I think you identified a really important issue, which is for the single-member constituencies, you have to build the network in order to win single-member constituencies. So the burden is on your party, the TPP, to build the local network. We'll see how you do in the upcoming local election, whether you win any or more city council and county council seats than you won previously. But politics in democracies or the success is also based on another important factor, that's money. And we know elections are very, very expensive. In the US, they've become even more expensive, but in Taiwan, you also have to do advertising and hire staff. And it's difficult for small political parties to raise money, of course. So if you can't raise money, then people aren't going to know who you are, and that ultimately will be a factor, I think, in the success or failure. You mentioned that some of the past examples of small parties in Taiwan were based on the charisma of one person. So like the People First Party was based on James Song, or the Taiwan Solidarity Union was based on Lee Deng-hui. But that's just not enough. You need to build the organization, and that costs money. So that is a significant challenge. Unless you have one person who's going to write a very large check and fund it, and we've seen some wealthy individuals actually give a lot of money to the DPP or to the Great Recall campaign last year. But unless you have the fundraising coming in, it becomes hard to sustain a third party.
So what's your specific advice for third party or any independent candidates in Taiwan?
I think you need to have policy positions across the range of issues, not just China issues, but you mentioned some of the key issues here in Taiwan. You mentioned housing. I mean, that housing is an issue that politicians from the Kuomintang and from the DPP constantly get criticized over, because they make promises about how much public housing they're going to build, and then they never achieve their goal. And that just angers the voters. And that's an issue completely unrelated to the China question. But even recently, President Lai, he's had a lot of criticism because people are saying you've been in office 2 years, you just reached your 2-year anniversary, and you're nowhere close to the public housing units goal that you said you would build. But to be fair to him, KMT politicians have encountered the same problem as well, where they fail to meet their goals. So you need to have policies on a range of issues, and that certainly is one way to distinguish the TPP from the other parties. If you have more policies and your policies are clear and you present those policies to the public.
Do you think we should eat more 凤梨世家?
Well, there certainly is a controversy over agriculture exports to China at the moment. It's something that's been in the news a lot. One of the problems is over the past 10 plus years, a lot of farmers did become reliant on the China market, which is very dangerous to rely on a single market. On the other hand, the DPP, which has been in power since 2016, their solution has been to throw huge amounts of money to subsidize attempts to export Taiwan fruit to other markets like Japan, Singapore, and the Middle East. And that actually isn't a really good way to spend money because the air freight costs and creating the cold storage, these all had to be built from scratch to compete against other suppliers that have already been sending their produce to those markets as well. So it's a very interesting debate, but someone needs to come up with a solution to save those farmers. You've been watching Ross Feingold, political analyst and lawyer here in Taiwan with TPP, Taiwan People's Party External Counsel and Live. We've been talking about third parties in Taiwan and their rise and their fall and the potential success of the Taiwan People's Party going forward. Thank you, Anne.
Thank you, Ross, and figure cross for TPP. 你有划过龙舟吗？
太累了。
你可以假装划啊。
你可以当美魔女哦。
做这样子。